Okay, welcome to the Return to Mean presentation. This is going to be a presentation of Trading Close and VolSignals new offering for active traders. I'm going to try and do this as a brief, quick run through such that we don't steal too much of your weekend time or whenever it is that you're watching this. There will be further in-depth, sort of more slow presentations as we go forward. Usually these may be occasionally after the market closes. Look out for those. Okay, so what are we doing and what are we offering and what is it? So I think let's just sort of jump in with some very basic questions, which is who do we track? So the data that we're tracking is specifically index market makers, ETF author participants, and prime brokers or investment banks that are doing short-term loans to very large trading firms. Where do we track them? So those participants are very busy across all over the market. We're specifically tracking them in the swaps corner of the market, and in particular the equity and short-term interest rate swaps markets. These are markets that trade a little bit on screen. Some of them are quite active on screens, but mainly off screens, mainly voice trades or over the counter, and in very sort of weird and obscure corners of the market, I should say, but highly active at times. And what are we recording? We are recording when that complex, that collection of swaps that we're tracking, when it comes into balance, when it is such that all of those contracts match up with each other, just line up with each other in terms of their sort of implied value. Throughout the course of the day, they move away from each other in terms of value, and then at various points of the day, they very clearly are arbed or pushed together into a balance. Why do we do that? Well, as you will see, and we'll get to this in the next few slides, when these marks occur, these balance marks, it can let us know what sort of mode or stage the market is in. What does that mean? So the market is usually in one of two modes. One will be mean reversion, and that's where perhaps you call that chop or pause or stuck in a tight range, but that's where the market is mean reverting, moving back and forth around a key important mean reversion point. The other stage will be where the market is moving. So momentum, trend, I don't know, moving through a range, however, whichever term you prefer to use. And so what our signals can show, and again, we'll get to this in a moment, very, very clearly is which stages the market is in, such that you could inform your trading through that. You know, you could be punting on it being in a mean reversion state, so reverting back to the mark where it is marked, or you could be punting on it staying within that range. There are lots of ways to trade that. And alternatively, once we get into momentum and trend, you could be punting on that movement. These points, these marks, which we're going to get to, do also provide us really reliable risk management marks, allowing us to really minimize our losses, so to give us points where we can get out of trades that are not going our direction and maximize profits, get out of trades at sort of the high points of the move. Okay, this is all very ambiguous, so let's show what it really looks like, because it becomes easier when you're able to see it. So this is the E-mini chart for the Thursday that just went past. I'm going to do only a few charts just for this past week. This is Thursday of this past week, and this is the E-mini. The times you see across the bottom are Chicago times. We do everything. We live and operate in Chicago time zone. These are what you will see streamed live. This is a screenshot at the end of the day, but these print live. This chart is a live stream in the service offering. It's a trading view chart if it matters. They're very pretty charts. So the white bars will print, and you can see a few white bars there over the chart. They're soft signals. These are usually when only a number of the swaps have come into balance. They're important to an extent, but they're not as important as the next signal, which is the blue boxes, but you'll see some of the white candles have blue boxes around them. These are strong signals when a fair proportion, a majority of the swaps have all come into line with some sort of volume being whacked at it. So this includes the over-the-counter stuff, which is fed in through separate sort of data, Python terminals, for what it matters, that we have scraping information off the exchange direct. And then the final is the blind, our strongest signals. These are when there is very particular amount of volume And it is across nearly all, if not all, of the swaps markets. And these are very meaningful, the strongest signal. This is when we're saying everything really came into balance here at this moment. You will see a little, I don't know what that is, aqua, let's call that, little aqua text right here that says strongest signal. And we do mark the strongest of the morning, and then we do mark the strongest of the afternoon. Virtually every day there will be a strongest in the morning, not necessarily in the afternoon. Sometimes the afternoons they don't reach a balance, and I like starting with this example of Thursday this week because you can see there wasn't one towards the end of the day, which happens. That's what we see. How is that achieved? What is the strongest of the morning or strongest afternoon? This is when, keeping in mind that lines are when we're seeing most of the swaps going. This would be where we're seeing nearly all of them, and there is a large amount of volume, but also a density of trades, meaning a lot of them happening at substantial size across all of the swaps, and then a balance is achieved. This is a very, very clear moment of arbing. It's usually investment banks that are arbing this space, and so it tells us that this key moment in the index, when that balance is achieved, is very important to them. So if you look here at Thursday's chart, you can see it's a very important mean reverser here at the strongest of the morning, and sure enough, we went away from it. There was news, there was that tsunami warming, I think, on Thursday. So the market dug down and eventually chopped around and stuck around this mean reverter, which was a strong signal that we had from about a little bit after 10 a.m. Chicago time. And then the final element, or you see on a chart, will be these beige lines, which you can see up here. They're not so much signals, but rather sort of notes that we put on. We're aware of the fact that people can't just, some people will, but some people will maybe sit on the stream and then go for lunch and then come back, or maybe need to do some stuff. So there are key areas that we like to mark. So we use these beige lines as notes. Sometimes we have these little arrows as well, just as a way of kind of showing people, look, if you were away, this is something that you missed. In this point, what was missed, and you can see what we call a cluster. So these were separate sort of balance points, but three printed at virtually the exact same price. And so we can see that this is an important kind of point, and it proved to be this initial move before the tsunami warning did bounce very hard off that area, and these become interesting points. One last note before I try to quickly jump into just the rest of last week's charts that I'll share with you. We do use lines. We're using boxes. There are colored, these white bars. It kind of looks like some of the things that you may see on a TA chart. This is not TA. We have no issue with TA. TA is extremely valuable to very large firms. That is fine, and you should use TA if that is in your trading complex. That's not what this is. This is tracking very specific flow inside a complex area of the market, and we're just using these because it's an easy visual representation. And so this can look like sort of TA the first time you're looking at it, but it's not. These are not sort of lines jumping around. So just think of these as being marks for you. All right, let's jump in after that warning. Oh, I should add, the other offering that we have in there, of course, is the live chat. So this is not a situation of where these are just printing and good luck to you. Hopefully you understand. We are, both VolSignals and myself, are commentating throughout the course of the day. VolSignals is sharing live updated views of changing sort of gamma or charm or Vanna pressures, and then we will often sort of have a TLTR where we're kind of saying what we're seeing and what we expect. Sometimes, like this day, our signals converged. Sometimes they diverge a little bit as well. That's also good information in its own right. So you're not in there kind of just left to your own devices, as it were. These are, big value offering is that both of us are in there and are available and are in there all day. Okay, let's jump into some other views so you can see. This is Wednesday, the day before. So the first thing you'll notice is there was a strongest morning print there. That's, again, Chicago time, so about 10:15, that looks like to me. That we kind of expect that. That's into the London close. So that's a meaningful time for a lot of very large participants who are about to log off for the day and head down to the pub and drink 17 Guinness as they wish. So strong mean reverter line, and sure enough, you can see we chopped around for a while, just stuck to it, fell away, came back, fell away a bit more, came back. And then we started to get on this comeback here. the trending signal. What are the trending signals? The trending signals when we start to see higher prints consistently, or lower prints if it was a downtrend. So we would have started getting long here, especially knowing that we're pretty confident we're going to get a nice little ride back to the mean reverter line. That's a good point to get out if you want. There was a print there, confirming once again the importance of this line, to kind of point out again that these are not necessarily TA. You can look at this mark here, 6087.75. So these are not round numbers, but you can see how clearly important this area was all day. Then we get some more ascending prints, pretty easy to kind of stay on this trending move here, or maybe, we missed maybe a few points there, but to get on it there. This cluster line was, this beige line was put in once again for a cluster. These are good points to just get pause, maybe take some profits off, maybe close half your position and be like, well, there's something happening here, so I'll take some of the position off. The trend kept going. So pause at cluster, which you can see they're usually pretty short. They're not as meaningful, these clusters, as the blue lines, but they're good areas to practice risk management, which is kind of the thing that we're talking about here. And then we got a great print here at about 2 o'clock, so an hour to go, as strong as the afternoon. And if you can see, a bunch of confirmations, more boxes printing at it. And so what that tells us is most days, we think probably 4 out of 5 days that it prints, this is going to predict the pin. And sure enough, despite us ripping away and everyone betting on us going up and closing around up, above the round number of 6,100, we ripped down and finished at that pin as expected. Again, it's not going to happen every day. It's not going to be a 100% hit rate, but we expect it more often than not. Let's move on to the Tuesday. And again, trying to rush through this. So if you have more questions, feel free to DM, but also there will be more in-depth, detailed presentations. Tuesday, an interesting day. We got a print here for the strongest of the morning, which you can see there. It was marked on the right side of the chart, and was a similar time actually, closer to 10:30 Chicago time. So that tells us that we think that there's going to be a chop and a pause and around here. So even though we sort of see a little bit of a rip up, there is a line print, a strong print there, and then pretty much off that, boom, we smash back down. We actually ran through the mean reverter line. These are pretty tight range day, so it pulled through at 5 or 6 points, I suppose. And then we start to get the trending mode signals again. And once again, to confirm these, you're not left to your own devices to work this out for yourself. We were live commentating this in the chat. But these print, and so we did revert back to the mean, and then we're clearly trending. There's a nice little cluster line here, I suppose, which gave us a chance to pause. Some of us took profit there, some didn't and held on. We got a little bit of a retest again of these lines because they seem to be important. And then we moved up towards the strongest of the afternoon, which you can see right there, a little bit before 2 o'clock. A couple of confirmations of it, but we were pretty much, you can buy flies here, or you can be, as the market moved away, you can buy here on it coming back. And sure enough, as you can see, the strongest of the afternoon ended up being pretty much exactly the pin of that day. And then we come to Monday, and this is good because I'll give you an example of some other nuances. So we have a line print here at about 10. And so that's a good point to get flat if people were doing short, which some were on that day. And then we get a strongest here at the London close, so about a half an hour later. So let's talk about this because there's a strong line there and an even stronger line there. What does that mean, and why was this one called the strongest? So effectively, again, just reminding that our filters are saying, our filters for labeling these lines is how much of the entire complex went. So is it across all the markets? At what size? Well, what is the total volume or the total notional of all the trades? And then finally, a very important thing as well is the density. It would have been a lot. There was a lot of volume here. I think it did not go across the entire complex, but definitely a lot of volume and density. So it's marked with a strong line. But then as we went forward a half an hour later, this one was even stronger. This one actually, from memory, went across the entire complex. Slightly higher volume, although it wasn't that much higher in terms of notional, but way more density, way more frequency of trades, way more signals telling us that, yeah, there is clearly several large investment banks who are pushing this thing into balance right here, right now. So that gave us that mark. And if you watch, sure enough, we get a cluster up here. So pause, right? We see clusters tend to be a pause, and sure enough, come back down, test the mean reversion line, come back down and test it. We kept coming back and testing it until we did get a move up. This is good to show how some days, it's not happening inside, whatever the market forces are not inside our sector. And so sadly, we don't get a signal on this little, trending move here. All week last week was pretty tight ranges for most of the day. So it's cool to show how these things also do work in tight ranges. But we did miss, we didn't get a trading signal this day. We did get a strongest of the afternoon up here. And this is a good example of when I said it doesn't hit 100% of the time, it did kind of miss on this day. Not by a massive amount, but it certainly didn't miss. It tried to come back to it, but it missed it by 3-4 points. So we call that a miss in our language. And so this is a good way to sort of show the sort of elements that can sometimes overwhelm us. And mostly what that is news. There would have been news, late breaking news that day that would have driven the market away. You'll see that a lot. If you are trading economic news, you'll notice that the market rips away on it and eventually moves its way back to a mean reverter. But it'll do that if there's economic news in the morning. It'll do that. It has time to do that. Sadly, if there is news that rips away from us at the end, there is not enough time for the market to move back to these really important balance points. So those will be the days where less frequently we will miss because, no signal is perfect. So those are the examples. Those are just last week. Again, trying to keep this to be a relatively short presentation. So what does that look like for you if you want to join? So it is a live stream in a Discord channel with that chat with both VolSignals and myself commentating throughout the course of the day and available to answer questions. There are folks in there that have been in there a little while. They offer some reads as well. So for the newer folks, it's great to have them as well. Also, show some points of interest and things that they have learnt. We have a limited amount of people we can let in there just before it gets a little bit too noisy. And so the way that it works to join is there is first a trial. The trial is, of course, for you to see if it's something that's valuable to you. Because of the frequency of how often the signals print, it is probably best for active traders. But, you can see that through a trial if it's going to be something that's valuable to you. But also it gives us a chance to really see if you're somebody that works well with us. And that's what a trial is. Both parties really want to see if this thing that works. So we require everyone to go through this 5-day trial such that we can see that whether it's a great fit, and that's $145, and it is for a 5 trading days. So regardless if there's a weekend in the middle or a public holiday, you get 5 trading days, however many calendar days that ends up being. And then the monthly membership itself is $900 a month. For the next 6 months, we commit to sticking to that for all new entrants. And then if you are in at that rate, then that is just your rate. You will be grandfathered in regardless of which way we go. So those are the details. Sorry, those are the details. So for access, we would like you to either DM myself, Trading Closed, or you can DM VolSignals, or you can email him at admin@volsignals.com to set up a request and set up for a trial. At the moment, we're trying to limit it to sort of 6 trials added a day so that there is enough time for you to have, so we're not so overwhelmed with folks asking questions. You're going to have a lot of questions the first time. And so if we limit the amount of trials that we're adding, you can feel confident that we're available to answer whatever questions you may or may not have. If you have any of those questions or you would like to sign up for the trials, please reach out to us by DM or email. And look out for further presentations if that's what you're hoping for. Those will probably be announced on the VolSignals Discord, and those will probably start running occasionally after market close. Thank you so much, and see you in the markets.